What's up, Rockstars? Welcome to my review of Tanares Expeditions Central Sea. This is the latest and greatest from Dragori Games. I have the prototype here. I've played through it, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts about it right now. Hey, if you didn't know, channel sponsors, Into the AM, wearing a shirt right now from them, do all the time. Fantastic. Black Friday sale, link down below, save yourself an extra 10%. All right, so as you can see here, when it comes to Tanares Expeditions, it is the best game of Tanares when it comes to getting it on the table and then just playing it. The table space isn't too much. This is actually quite a bit of it. In fact, there's a little bit extra here that I don't need, including all of the enemy standees, including several different comrades that you don't need. Comrades are the fact that you always play with 4 heroes, and so if you have less players, then you actually have comrades out. I use them. I'll talk about them later, but they're kind of like a lighter version of a normal character, just slightly. I'll get to it later. But either way, there's like extra here. I got the rule book here. I got like an extra boss I don't need. So this is actually really nice. Tanares is a game series all the way from Arena of the Contest that is kind of tried and true and stood the test of time when it comes to multiple campaigns, deliveries, iterations of the same core mechanic, and that is present here as well. So this is not something that's like revolutionary different or way, detached, I should say, from their previous stuff. This still very much feels and plays like a Tanares game, like a Dragori Games game at this point. And that's cool. That is really cool. And like I said, Tanares and even Arena of the Contest was a very big game with lots of boxes and a whole bunch of setup. And it was a very I'm dedicated to play this kind of game. So what Expeditions does is it makes it kind of like a roguelike. I'll get into why that's like a roguelike, but it also just makes it to where it's just a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more, brought down to a realistic way to where if you just wanted to pick this for a game night, you literally could. You could play through a whole quest in a game or in a night, and you set it up pretty easy, set it up pretty quick, and have a good time in it. And so that's really cool. I really like how much smaller of a game this is. It also means it's cheaper. Link down in the description below, by the way, to the campaign. At the time of posting this review, it should be live. If you're watching this late, that's fine too. There's probably a late pledge or something like that, or otherwise just follow Dragori Games. I'm sure they're doing something with it. So either way, really liked the streamlining of this, really liked the table presence, the quick setup. Seriously, that is very nice. Very, very happy to see it. Now, when it comes to feeling like Tanares, that can either be a pro or a con for you. If you played Tanares, if you played Arena of the Contest and you enjoyed it, this is more of a good thing for you. If you feel like you've had enough of the game system and you don't want to play it anymore, this probably won't change your mind. So if fundamentally you're tired of the Tanares style of gameplay, this probably isn't it for you. Unless that style is the big, bombastic, heavy setup, but very deep and complex and nuanced and massive game dungeon crawler, then this might actually rejuvenate some life into the system for you. Alternatively, if this is your entry point into the system, or you're wanting to try it out or see what all the fuss has been in the last few campaigns, this is a great time to get into it because it is cheaper, it is smaller, it is more streamlined, it is just easier to table. So as far as I'm concerned, easy to table is a big pro for me, so I'm going to mark this as a pro for me, but you can judge that based off of how you feel. Now, one of the things that Tanares has always done well is do classes very well, and I must say they are still good here. You still have stuff like the striker, or the controller, or the healer, or the tank. That's all that came in this prototype. I'm sure that other characters and stuff will come in the campaign. Again, that's linked down in the description below. That being said, played all of them. They all play very well. It's a very similar thing where you're taking a move and a prime action. The prime action typically being an attack, maybe another move, something like that. So you move your guy and then you're able to do a card. You have 2 basic attacks or normal prime actions that you do. For instance, Adoro over here, he's the striker, which is like a DPS melee guy, right? So he has a break armor and a heart strike, and both of those have really cool mechanics. So for instance, with the break armor, you actually get to add a exposed token to the enemy, plus you get to do some movement, which is very cool. And then they have like the heart strike, and the heart strike, you actually are able to make it to where your accuracy is less, so it makes it harder to hit the enemy, but every essentially negative to the die roll that you add, you get to add that to the damage. So if you think you can hit him, you think you can do it, you're going to hit him really hard, right? So the little things like that are super cool. And there's all sorts of stuff. The controller's moving people on the initiative row, which is very typical. It's very, common, that you go in the order of the people. What I liked about the initiative while I'm here is that you're not constantly changing it up. Like I said, the controller can do that a little bit. I'm sure there's some others that can do that somewhat, but it's not like you're shuffling them and redoing it every time. That is the order that you're going to be playing through, and you just loop through it, which makes it really quick. And so that, I guess, is the next thing. So moving off of the fact that the classes are unique, they're great. Again, if you've played Tanares system at all, you understand what I'm talking about here. The classes are very, very good. They feel different. They act different. A healer is actively healing and supporting people. The controller can buff and debuff and move things around, and the tank can take on damage. It's all there. So that's really great. Moving on from that to the fact that you just play through the game really swiftly. This is something that's been a positive in Tanares for a while, but it's especially felt here, I feel, just because it fits so much better into this streamline of a game that they have here, where you move, you do your prime action, that's it. You're done with your turn. Next person, move, prime action, done with your turn. The enemies, same thing. Move, prime action, they're done with their turn. And they're targeting, their AI is very, very straightforward. And so it's literally just, I attack the furthest, I attack the weakest, I attack the healer, I do whatever, right? And that's really it. So you can move through this incredibly fast, incredibly swiftly, and there's not a whole lot of AP. Now there can be, because the positioning matters and you can flank people, or like in one of the things in the quest, I'll get to the quest in a moment, there's like cannon fire hitting on all the like even rows, and so you're trying to not do that, though a challenge is to have the cannon fire also kill like an enemy, so maybe you're trying to get hit just so it can kill an enemy so you can get more coins, more on the coins in a moment as well. Either way, it plays really streamlined, really fast, the player turns are quick. Really like that. I like the fact that I'm not fussing with the initiative track all the time. It's just there. That's what it is. Move it around a little bit, but otherwise, them's the deal. That's the order you're going to do it in. All right, let's talk about the quest structure a little bit, since I've kind of teased that. And this gets back to that roguelike statement. How is this like a roguelike while still having a campaign? And one of the ways, well, I guess we'll start with the quest and then the meta of the roguelike. So when it comes to the quest, you essentially have a book here that has different encounters. Encounters are, encounters with enemies, essentially, right? And so you start in one area and then you move across, and then you flip the page and you move across. So in this one, for instance, there was a quest 1, a quest 2, a quest 3, a quest 4. And one of the things that I like about that is you're actively moving across a fairly big map. So on the flip side of this, I'm not going to flip it right now, and it wouldn't show quite as well, but I'm sure you can see it. Again, in the description, there will be a link to the campaign. I'm sure they'll show lots of stuff there. Either way, you start by coming onto the beach, and then you are moving into the beach, and then you're moving farther. Now you're getting into kind of like the woods, the palm branches, the inner island. And so you actually feel that progression as you move forward, which is really cool. And you don't quite know what's ahead, except for a little bit. I can see what the next encounter is, but not the encounter after that. So that's really cool. I really like that. I think it plays well. It keeps the map confined, and when it comes to dungeon crawlers, that's key. Often we get these book games, but they don't necessarily progress like this, where you're flipping through it and going through it that way. And so I like that it compartmentalizes. I like that it goes from one to another, but you get a little bit of lead in what's going to be. You still have a lot of interaction and discussion and talking and stuff like that, and people can spawn and things can happen. That's really cool. The quests also do special things. So they'll have different mechanics, different things at play with the setup, special rules and whatnot. One of the things that's really neat is Tanares has always done a lot of side quests, right? The different bonus activities you can do while playing the game. And this does it here, but it ties directly into it. I kind of alluded to one of them, for instance, which was the fact that they have the cannon fire. But really, more than that, it builds off of itself. So, for instance, in the first quest, they were like, oh man, we're going to come in on the beach, we're getting off the boats, but they set up spike traps. And so you got to watch out for spike traps. So it's kind of teaching you almost how to play the game, or introducing different mechanics in a more nuanced way. And because one of the challenges is kill some of the enemies, 2 enemies, with the spike traps. In other words, you actually have to shove them in there and have them die in there. And so, maybe you stabbed them and flung them off their sword, or you pushed them in there, or you used a tentacle to move them around or whatever, right? And so you're kind of playing with that. And then as you progress, it does more and more. So now, for instance, this one, there's these tombs that have this aura that does major damage on there. Or there's cannon fire, and so you're trying to avoid that, or trying to actively get hit but be next to a guy so he gets hit as well, so then he dies, and then hopefully you can heal up. So that's really cool. I like that they kind of build off of that and add to it. Additionally, there's thematic flow within the mechanics of the quest as well. For instance, in this first one, this little tutorial kind of one, you have this, essentially this like cursed crystal that you're holding. Whoever's holding it is taking damage every single turn. Now they get a slight ability that isn't like super great, but kind of nice. So at least they have a little bit of a buff, but either way, they're getting hurt every turn. They can pass it off, so it's kind of hot potato sometimes. Ideally, you have the healer going there, healing everybody, right? Because it hurts, right? But then later on, you can actively like use that with one of the NPCs to like, it's part of the story. So it's a mechanic that instead of per encounter is per the entire quest and permeates it all and is then tied into the story on top of that. Really liked that. I thought the quest system works great. How it is like a roguelike. And it's like a roguelike because instead of this long drawn out dungeon crawl where you build your abilities and your power over time, over a long multiple sessions, you're building it each session here. So essentially you sit down on the quest and you start with just 2 of these enhancements. This is like a deck of enhancements that you can get, and you get the improved passive power, which is kind of a moot point, I feel. Unless you can ever change that, I feel like they should just tie that into there. So that's maybe a slight negative. It just seems like an extra card that's not needed. If your passive is always buffed, just add that to the buff and don't worry about the card. But whatever, I don't know, maybe it changes in the full game. But in the prototype, it was just an extra card. But then you do pick another one. You pick one by drawing 3 cards, right? And then picking the one that you want and then discarding the others, right? You're like, oh, I want +3 damage when flanking. Or, oh, if your damage kills a villain, deal the remaining damage +4 to another enemy. So there's like spillover now. There's overkill, right? So, and you pick that and you're deciding how to do that. You do that after each encounter. So if there's 4 encounters, typically in a quest, then you start with 2, then you have 3, then you have 4, then you have 5. So you're ramping up in power during a single game night. That's the roguelike of it. To an extent, also you can get materials, or not materials, chests and stuff like that. Now, how it goes throughout the whole campaign, I can't tell you. The prototype was just this one quest, so I can't speak further than that, except to say that the power ramp up is much quicker and it's within a game. And it reminds me a lot more of Zombicide in that sense, where you have this kind of rapid increase of power within the same game night, and then the next one, my assumption is you kind of restart, because in the rulebook it says you pretty much start with 2, you typically end with 5. So that's kind of how that works. There is one other mechanic, and that involves coins. So we're going to move on to coins now. This adds to the power ramp, but then also talks about one of the negatives I have as well, or at least a wasted potential. Okay. So coins. You get coins after each encounter based off what you do. If you pass the encounter, you get 1 coin. If you did the extra challenge, you get 2 coins, right? So you're getting 1 to 2 coins per encounter as you go through. Once you have 5 coins, if you have 5 coins, then you can unlock your second ultimate. So the ultimate is a nice little glowy card. Very, very strong. You can only use it once per quest. You start with 1 and you unlock a second one. So you need 5 coins to unlock this one. Now you can actually use 2, right? 1 per quest, but you have 2 of them. So they're very powerful. They're very nice to have, right? I mean, this has a hit 17 damage, gain +4 to attack roll. Very strong attacks, right? That are very good. You can use it once. Lethal Blade or Assassinate. Assassinate was really cool. They're awesome cards. I love them. This one, it just straight up kills a person if they have 16 or less health. Very cool. Love it. Literally with a move 5, so you can move again. You just zip across, like slice their neck, and you're done. Dead, right? Stab them in the back, whatever it is. Love it. Very cool. Once per quest, so once in all the 4 encounters. So typically you're kind of hanging on to them if you can, or come in and clutch, especially with like a big heal or something like that. So that's really cool. I like the ramp up. The 5 coins are awesome. And you're almost kind of guaranteed, as long as you do 1 challenge, you typically get there, right? Because that's 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, right? So as long as you're doing some of the challenges, you're able to unlock this second ultimate, which is kind of nice. Now, I think the long-term progression is the fact that you see this 1 here, there's a level 1 on these, so I'm assuming there are upgrades, a level 2, a level 3, something like that, in the full game. So there's both shorter increases in strength and longer increases in strength. To flip back to one of the things that I feel is a little bit of a wasted potential, at least something I didn't really care for, and that's actually the coins. So I'll kind of explain what I didn't like about this. You're getting coins, which is great. But you can also, you'll see maybe on here, the 2, right? So you can actually spend 2 coins to buff any of your abilities, right? Your enhancements, your improvements, I think they're called. So for instance, this one says pay 1 HP, reroll die. If I pay 2 coins, I pay no HP. So essentially I saved an HP, 1 HP for 2 coins. You have to save your coins for the ultimate, and the ultimate is as strong as it is for 5 coins. I feel like spending any coins except to get the ultimate, and then afterwards, sure, whatever, is just a waste. For 1 HP, 2 coins, they're all 2, as far as I can tell, at least in this base one. There are advanced ones. They are all 2 coins each, which is an entire encounter plus challenge worth plus 2 damage to passive power, 2 coins, plus 3 damage instead of 2. Like, woohoo. Like, it's not that big of an unlock. It's nice. It increases power. That's cool. I would rather say 5 for I like instantly, do 17 damage to a guy and stuff like that. Like, to me, that just seems a little bit stronger than going for that. Additionally, you can kind of lose coins too. So these challenges can be hard. Like the cannons, you literally like have to get hit with like a big heavy attack and hope that it kills him, and then you can just heal up. Because as you're going from encounter to encounter, it's not like you're healing up to full or something like that. So there's 2 things that are making you feel a little weaker. The fact that you're getting coins but can't lose them. The fact that you lose coins if you resurrect. So if you do die, you actually get these resurrection tokens. You get typically 2 of them per quest. And once you've used them, if you can't, you have to like resurrect on your turn. So I died, and now I need to get resurrected. There's not like a resurrection spell, at least not in this group here, and the rulebook doesn't allude to it either. Instead, you have these first aid kits. And if you can't use them, then game over. So essentially, you can lose 2 guys. Once the 3rd person dies, it's game over the moment it gets to their turn. When you do that, you gain 15 health, and you lose 2 coins. So if you don't have any coins, no loss. If you do, you just lost 2. You're essentially not going to get your ultimate at that point. So it can hurt really bad to get that. The one thing that's kind of interesting is you're gaining these powers and you're becoming like harder hitting, or maybe if you're a tank, a little bit more of a tanky kind of guy, or if you're healer, maybe you're healing a bit more. But you're often less health as you're going through, right? Unless you're like really healing up and doing very good on the heals, you're not at your max health really anymore. So that can be kind of a bother. So you're both getting stronger, but also feeling a little weaker sometimes because, oh no, I only have like 8 HP. And sometimes, that guy there, the skeleton, he does 7 HP on his damage, and he become an elite and then do even more. So I'll talk about elites in a moment. Let me talk about these improvement cards a little bit when it comes to comrades. So comrades are really cool. I did purposely try them out as well, and I think they are actually really, really cool. I love the comrade system in this game. In fact, I'm tempted to play with less people and play with more comrades. And in fact, I think a solo play of Tanares Expeditions might be like the best solo experience in Tanares yet, because these are really, really fun. So you get your comrade, and they can come with 1 of 3 cards. I'm not sure where her other cards went currently, but maybe we can find it somewhere here. Yeah, it'll be over here. So for instance, the controller can either be a Hex Master, a Curse Weaver, or a Destruction Bringer. And you pick one of those. You can change them in between quests, but essentially what it does is every encounter, they get an increase. And they're pretty strong, right? So the Hex Master, encounter 1, whenever a villain misses an attack against any hero, it just takes 5 damage. She's just laying hexes down, and the moment they miss, they get hurt. Fantastic. Encounter 1 doing 5 damage for every single miss on every single against every single hero. Super awesome. Very cool. And then on the second one, she gets +3 to her attack rolls. Just boom, instantly +3. To an extent, I found that these were actually stronger than some of the other ones. For instance, mine, precision, was only +2 attack rolls. Literally a strictly better precision than I have. And instead of just increasing like a passive power, she was just doing 5 damage to people, right? Super cool. And encounter 3, +8 to HP, and heal 8. So even if you're at max health, you just got 8. She now has more health than like everybody. And then encounter 4, you do even more stuff. And so they're all really cool. They're all awesome. You can use 2 coins. They get coins in there to increase stuff as well. For each 2 coins, your attacks deal +1 damage. So you can just stack coins in there and make. Very cool system. Loved the comrades. Otherwise, they still have their cards. You're still making a decision for them. They can get buffs. They have their passive. They're doing all that. It just streamlines these improvement cards, and that's really it. but I actually kind of liked that. In fact, I'm almost tempted to play a whole game with nothing but comrades and see how that is. I don't know how the balance would work on that, but it might be kind of fun to not even do this where you draw and do that, and then instead just pick your skill tree, essentially, right? And then be able to swap in between quests so you can try different... I think that's awesome. I love it. The comrades, one of the highlights for me. I actually really liked this system. Moving back to the elites. So essentially you can get them to spawn with elites, and the elites are actually really nice. I like that. So essentially they can do like plus health, plus damage, plus movement, plus defense, whatever it might be. They have a blue villain and a red villain. Essentially each of these has a color, a red or a blue. And based off that, you get the base that matches it, right? And then you get the health tracker that matches their base, right? And then that's them. When it comes to this, they get buffed differently. So for instance, let's take this one, right? Plus 12 health, plus 4 damage, plus 1 defense. So they're tougher, they hit harder, and they're more healthy, right? That's a combination, right? Very much now a tank version of themselves. If they were red, they would get only plus 10 HP instead of plus 12, so a little bit less HP, plus 5 damage instead of plus 4, so they hit a little bit harder, and then plus 1 movement. So now they're moving around and attacking harder, but not quite as defensive as the other one. A little bit less health, a little bit less defense. So that's really cool. I like that. The one issue I did have here is, at least in the prototype, at least again, prototype only, right? These are all the same. And so it's not like they're doing anything besides adjusting stats, really, right? And that's, I guess, was a little bit of a letdown. I was hoping for more. I imagine in the core game there might be more. But either way, from what I have here, just in this quest, it worked really well, and I really liked it. The elites felt elite, and that was cool. They were tougher. They were harder hitting. Especially the harder hitting. That plus 4 damage, oof, that's rough, right? And then, again, more health, too. So that's a whole nother attack, a whole nother 2 attacks, maybe. Very, very tough on that. So I like the elite system as well. Moving on to the red and the blue a little bit, we have this Sea Curse deck. This Sea Curse deck, essentially, once you get to the activation, every round, so every iteration through it, of the first villain, you then draw this. And they can have detrimental effects, right? For instance, this says, heroes cannot heal. This round, nobody's healing until this hits again. Very not good, right? This one has, if there are 4 other Sea Curse cards already revealed, in other words, if this is the 5th round or more, deal 25 damage to all heroes. Just straight 25 damage to all of them. You don't want to get that. You want to move fast. That will kill multiple people in one go. You will get a game over. That is rough, right? 25 is rough. And not only that, there's several. Here's another one. If there's 4 or more, deal 20. Right? So sometimes you can get different tokens or debuffs or buffs for the enemies. But if you head to 25 and then the 20, that's 45 damage in 2 rounds. I'll get into randomness in a moment. Yeah, bad news. So these are quite powerful, quite impactful, a very big part of the game. I really like the Sea Curses there. The one semi kind of bummer, a little bit of a letdown, is the bottom part. So the bottom part here says target 1 hero, red closest, blue healer. In other words, this is how they determine the AI, essentially. And all of them will match the same AI. So all the red will attack the closest, all the blue will attack the healer, regardless of the unit there. So the one thing I would say here is that while there is a little bit of a difference, for instance, the skeleton here has an effect, 7 damage, and if the target had 16 HP or more when attacked, to deal plus 3 damage, so he hits the harder hitting people more, right? But that's also not paired with like the people with the most HP or something like that, because his targeting is just based off of the closest, because that's what it said randomly. And because they all follow that, whether it's the skeleton, the pirate, or the goblin, right now in the activation, they're all red, which again isn't actually possible here. I just kind of set this up real quick. But so you'd have 1 blue, but either way, let's say the skeleton and the pirate were red, they act the same way, just with different stats. So while I have all of these enemies, and that's super cool, they don't necessarily, compared to the classes, compared to the heroes, right? Way less personality, way less uniqueness, right? For a large part, they are acting mostly the same. There's some cool things. For instance, the chest can have a mimic, and he'll attack heroes or villains. He doesn't care. He's just attacking everybody. He's just an angry treasure chest, right? So there's some cool stuff like that. But for the most part, the enemies feel, again, only limited view here, only prototype, more or less the same with different stats. So that was kind of, I think, the biggest impact I felt of streamlining. When it came to just them not acting super unique compared to the classes, the enemies were all more or less doing about-ish the same thing. They're moving, they're attacking one person, they're hitting that person. And in fact, if there's multiple of the same color, they're acting the exact same way just about. So kind of a letdown in that, just because they are cool, and it'd be cool if, there was a goblin that could buff people and all that, but all that kind of adds more overhead, and this is really focused on streamlining. So I get it. But I could also have just seen a skeleton level 1, 2, and 3 and just had different stats for that versus necessarily goblin, pirate, skeleton. I know I'm getting into the how much does theme matter, how much of this is raw mechanics. I understand that. It's just something I noted just because I have so many cool looking enemies, and at the end of the day, they're all going to be targeting the exact same kind of people. So it is what it is, but a little bit of a con for me, just from what I like. But I like the big Tanares game too, so, maybe there's a little bit of that at play. Okay, I do want to touch on perhaps the one big point here. Tanares, the system, is kind of interesting, and this one in particular with some of these like big, heavy, like minus 25 health, stuff like that, or even some of the passives like when they miss, they get 5 damage. The game can be quite random, which is ironic because if you miss, you still do damage, right? And so at one point, it really sucks to miss, but it's a really cool system that you still do essentially a little bit of damage, typically 3 or 4 damage, right? It's, oh, hey, I attacked you, but I missed, but that's okay. I still did something, which is great, right? At the same time, it is really just one die roll. You either hit it or you don't, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Now, I set this up exactly how I had it, and note if you see a similarity here. There's a lot of cards here. They do a lot of stuff. I chose +2 to my attack rolls, pay 1 HP to reroll die, critical hits are on 15 or higher instead of a nat 20. Notice they all are based on trying to make this work. And the reason is because even with that, I often missed. Some of it is because a lot of them are I don't know, it's just random, right? It is a die roll. Did you or did you not roll above a 6 on the 20-sided die? If it's elite, maybe they're a 7, right? Or something like that. If a boss, maybe even more than that. So granted, that's over 50% of the time, right? But once you get towards like the 7-ish range, there's a good, 30, 40%, whatever chance of missing every single time you roll. And considering you do one attack, you do one prime action, your turn might just be move and miss. And then the very next time, it might just be move and miss again. And that can really suck. Additionally, like anything random, you can have good runs and bad runs. This is where I think the roguelike helps, because it is just one game session. It's not like you screwed over your whole campaign. You can probably just re-go, right? I think that's fine. You can obviously, it is a board game. It's not app-based. Resurrect again. The board game police aren't going to talk to you about it, right? They're not going to arrest you for breaking the rules of the game. By all means, they could put it in the rule book if they wanted easy mode. You get, 18 million infinite resurrections. You resurrect the full price, or the whole full health instead of 15. You can do whatever you want. It's a board game. I love that. But as the rules are written and how it's kind of played under a normal circumstance, it can be a little swingy, right? 25 health, that's a lot. That's a lot, right? Her max health, 28. So if you go 5 rounds and encounter one because for some reason you're missing or you're just not having good luck or whatever, well, guess what? She's pretty much going to die almost guaranteed the moment you draw that, right? Which can kind of suck. Encounter 1, I'm already dead, right? So there is a little bit of that. Now, full disclaimer, playing through this, even with this, not only did we miss a fair amount, often with our heals. Our healer just wasn't rolling very well, missed some clutch heals, in fact, 3 of them in particular. But her passive for the enemies missing happened twice. Every single other time we rolled higher than essentially a 6. The reason it's essentially a 6 is because you can get debuffs, and a lot of either the enemies or the sea curses or whatever can give you a -2 to your defense, right? And so you can have it to where it's like my defense is 2. Unless they roll a 1, they're hitting me, right? And their hitting me might be 8 damage worth, right? Which it adds up. It's tough, especially when you have this curse that's hurting you 4 on top of that. Or you're getting hit by cannon fire, or you're getting moved into traps or whatever. So it's just kind of the luck of the draw, right? Sometimes you can mitigate it okay, sometimes not. Our healer even tried putting like empower tokens, I think is what the ones are. One minor note on that, they give you +2 defense and they stack. So they were doing double because of the ability they have. So +4 still hit. In fact, the 2 times they did it, it was my son and me. And when my brother laid that on us, both of us got either 1 over, I think it was my son, and exactly what they needed on me. It didn't actually change anything. They did the damage either way. And then all those tokens are lost. So it did nothing, essentially. Kind of a bummer. It's just chance. It's just chance. So pros and cons to that. That's been true for a lot of the Tanares system. It's true here too. You can just have some bad luck. You can have some good luck. There's a lot of games like that. Townsville's Tussle, I feel, is very tight like that. It's like either I'm doing good or I'm not. And if I don't get this, oh, that's a bummer, right? I do wish sometimes maybe the ultimates were guaranteed. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, but often you still have to kind of hit. You still have to do that roll, even on a heal. And there's not like a guaranteed I healed you kind of thing pretty much anywhere in the game. So I don't know. It's just part of the system. It's fine, I guess, but it can be kind of punishing if you have a string of bad luck. All right. So honestly, I actually really did enjoy my time with this. Mainly because, again, I like the Tanares system. I like the RPG. It's a good pirate fun. One of the benefits of it is you definitely get to often speak like a pirate when you're talking. There's a parrot, so you're going squawk, and doing all that kind of stuff. It's just good fun. Pirates are a fun theme. I'm glad to see Tanares lean into that a little bit. This is a pretty fun one indeed. I really enjoyed the story, the kind of a little bit of quirky humor in it. The cool quest system is awesome. The power ramp feels great. I love it in Zombicide. I love it here. Overall, when it comes to playing Tanares, I actually wouldn't mind playing both the main Tanares campaigns plus this on Light Nights, or just happen chance. Tanares is not something I'm just going to randomly pull out and play middle of the campaign or something like that. This totally could. That's awesome. Now, how it'll end up being, how big it'll end up being, I don't know. But at least from the prototype, this was so easy to play. So easy to table. I was set up within minutes and we were playing. It was that easy. Again, I'm talking like a pirate and we got these cool abilities. And when you are rolling good, it feels so good and you feel awesome. That like assassinate, instant kill, 16, you feel like a boss when you do that. You just are like, I'm going to move and then I'm going to freaking zip across and just freaking kill you right out. Awesome. You feel awesome when you do that. Could they maybe do a little bit more nuance in the coins? Could they maybe do a little bit more fine-tuning here? Yes. Good thing it's still a prototype. So where it'll end up being, I don't know, but I'll definitely be interested in finding out because I think where this is and where this is heading, it's going to be, it might be my most played Tanares yet because it's just that easy to play and fun to play. That's kind of my 2 cents here. You guys know I roll bad, guys. So sometimes I have a decent time. Sometimes it's just like, okay, what are the chances that they've only missed twice? That's crazy. In fact, I even got different die out. I was like, I don't know about this die. I want to get a different die. You guys know how it is, right? You're like, that die's fired. I'm getting new die. I'm never rolling that again, right? It happens, and hopefully you can see the kind of the fun that brings for me. I do love die. I love the randomness because it brings those highs and those lows and that emotional roller coaster where you're just coming in clutch. You're like, look, I'm dead if you roll this. Please don't roll this, or please do roll this. And they roll it and you're like, no, or you're like, yes, I love it. And when it's this impactful, it's actually kind of like a positive. It just depends on where you lay on it. But yeah, I don't know. It's easy. And if you die, you die. I don't know. Resurrect again, restart, whatever you want to do. It's a board game, right? Just have fun with it. Easy to do with Tanares Expeditions. Had a blast. That's it for my review of the prototype, at least. I hope you did enjoy that. Again, there is a link down in the description below where you can get a link to that campaign and see for yourself exactly what it is. I'm recording this before, so I don't know what the campaign's going to be like, but I'll cover that in a news video as well. So if you're interested in that, if you appreciated this, hopefully fairly in-depth review of even a prototype at the time that they're asking you for money, feel free to subscribe, hit the like button, or at least leave a comment letting me know that you appreciated it. It takes a lot of effort to play through it, gather my thoughts, really kind of encapsulate the highs and the lows and the whys I didn't like something or why I did like something, and maybe even potentially see how something could improve. Hopefully you appreciate that. I did put a lot of effort into it. Guys, thank you so very much. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye, guys.